In 2019, I had the opportunity to stand next to Michelle Kenney, the mother of Antoine Rose, a 17-year-old who was fatally shot by a police officer just sworn in a few moments before that fatal incident. And as I stood next to her in the Capitol and she made her plea for police reform, I felt her grief. Her grief was palpable, and as a mother of 2 sons, it was inescapable for me. But I also understood the assignment. I understood that she had charged us that day to go back on the House floor and the Senate floor, to go back into our offices and our communities, and to do all that we can to hold police accountable, to make hiring in law enforcement as transparent as possible, and to do everything we possibly could to ensure that not another mother carries that grief. I understood that assignment. Representative Rabb, Representative Williams, Senator Street, and many of the other members of the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus understood that assignment. We went back and we looked at legislation that many of us had already introduced, and we took inventory and we said, how can we and what can we accomplish? What legislation made sense? What legislation could we get buy-in and from stakeholders across the Commonwealth, from law enforcement agencies across the Commonwealth, from our colleagues across the aisle? And this bill was one of those. And we continue to work on that legislation because I understood, Commissioner, that we didn't want to have these bad apples in our communities. You see, Commissioner, because when I get on a plane, I don't expect the airline to tell me they have a few bad apples on the flight crew. Or when I go to the emergency room, I don't expect the doctors to tell me there's a few bad apples working in the emergency room that day. And so the citizens of Pennsylvania do not expect from their law enforcement to have a few bad apples serving their communities. We have a responsibility to ensure that. We had an assignment from a mother to ensure that. This database gets a check mark. We got one thing done on that assignment. This database is a step forward on all of the police reform efforts that my colleagues in the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus and our police reform working group has been working on. This database is some assurance for mothers like Michelle Kenney and myself and others that we are doing all we can to have a professional police department, a trustworthy police department, an ethical police department, and one that is rid of bad apples. I want to thank everyone who stepped up, whether you stepped into this process years before I got involved, or in 2018 and 19, or last year when our Commonwealth responded to the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and decided this was the moment. This was the moment to get real police reform done. And this database is evident of that work.